Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guests are Soji and Olu. If you guys want to start by just giving yourselves a bit of an introduction, and then we'll get into your story.
Cool. Sure. Yeah. My name is Olu Jegede, and I've been investing, I guess, for probably over 12 years now. And I work in the nonprofit field. I love what I do. So for me, real estate has just been kind of being able to add that extra income to our family, livelihood. So so just here to share, what we've been doing.
Yeah, and my name is Soji Bewaji, and partners with Olu here. Been investing with Olu for about, I would say about maybe 8 years, roughly.
Yeah,
around there.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I did a lot of personal investments, and I'd buy a house, I'd move out, I'd just rent it for like a few years, which actually did well. I did well with those. I think I had about 2 or 3 of those. Mm-hmm. And this is my first foray with Olu, really into the commercial, real business setup, real investment type thing. Yeah. And so that's really been my my background. Very typical of a lot of Canadians that want to build equity and build wealth, right? So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So I met Soji at the conference on October 21st, 2023, like a month ago ish. And anyway, so I met him there and we got talking, and I was like, we got to do a show about this. We got to, you're buying in the US now. So maybe let's just go in your story, how that progressed, how it went. I don't know which one of you guys want to tackle that, and then we'll see where this leads us.
I'll let you do that.
Yeah. So, and I think we'll kind of go back and forth, but so Soji and I, we were actively investing together in Canada. Over the last, I guess, 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. And, with COVID and everything kind of paused. And so we still connected and we're friends. So he had come to me to share, touch base, maybe just having coffee and just sharing, like, he's been learning about investing in the US, right? And I was not in any mind space at this point to do any sort of real estate investing. I'd done quite a bit, made some money, happy with my job. And so, but he's like, yeah, like I'm thinking of doing stuff in the US. Here's this podcast, Canadian Invested in the US. And so he really wanted to, I guess, do a pulse check with me to see what I was thinking. And I had no clue. Obviously, US is 10 times the size, and of course, we know that there's lots of, sort of capitalism, business, and stuff that happens in the US way more than Canada. So I'm like, yeah, obviously it's great, but I wanted to support him, and he had run a couple of deals by me. So I started to listen to your podcast, and so my background is IT, so I'm very much data driven. So I probably listened to about 150 of your episodes.
That's great.
So I really got up to speed, with everything. And I'm like, okay, you know what? There's something here. And so then Indy came up huge in some of the podcasts. And my daughter plays we have actually 4 kids, two girls, 2 boys. And so my youngest daughter, she's 14. She plays basketball in Chicago, well, AAU really. So they go all over in the summertime. So we were going to Chicago for a family vacation. And so I told my wife, I said, honey, we're going to leave a day earlier. And so I had made some connections in Indy through like Bigger Pockets and getting some contacts with agents. And so I'd lined things up. So so my family, I don't think they were too happy, but like, because they're at the hotel and I'm driving around with agents. I want to get a pulse and a feel of the market.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, we saw half a dozen to 10 different properties. And so that was kind of where it began for us, because I made a really good connection with an agent there. And I didn't even know that I was going to buy, or we were going to buy. I didn't know if Soji was ready. I was just like, hey, I'm in the States, I'm checking things out. And then we saw this one property, which eventually we went for, and we can talk a bit more about that property. But maybe, I don't know if Soji wants to jump in, but I think
before you go too far, I'm just going to ask, because I'm maybe a couple of people it's popped in their heads as well. You guys are Canadian, right? Because as soon as you said you're like playing basketball in Chicago, you're Canadian. It has like some sort of travel team that you're going to Chicago, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, like, we're Canadian.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually a dual citizen. I'm American and Canadian.
Well, that's a big advantage.
but I left the US with my family when I was 1 year old. So I've been in Canada like forever. So it was interesting because, and this is where Soji is going to be helpful, because we had issues financing the property because I had no American income. I had no credit score, even though I had an SSN, a social security number, and I have an American passport. All I could do was open a bank account at a bank, but they were not interested in touching me, and so we were treated like we were. I was Canadian, and so was my business partner. So this property that we saw, it was $80,000 that they were asking for.
Yep.
And it was I would say 3-bedroom, 1-bath. It's in downtown Indy, and it was probably about 1,800 square feet, 170 deep lot by probably 50 feet wide. So it was, and it was about 100 years old. So that's a property. And so Soji can talk about, like how much we end up getting it for, and sort of how we had to finance it, because we had some issues financing it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next about, how did you finance it? Did you have to fix your credit score first, or build a credit score, or did you just switch to foreign national lending? How did you deal with the lending part of this?
I think all in all, it would probably, I guess, out the foreign national financing, right? Yeah, that would probably be what that is. Because what happened was, you had this American that had no history in America, and they didn't want to touch him.
Yeah,
he's able to open an account, but I can't even open one, right? Being Canadian, right? And so they said, well, you know what? This was Neil at NSS Financial. Yeah, he said, you know what? They're gonna have to look at my credit history in Canada, use that to get us the loan that we need. They couldn't use Olu's because he had nothing, and so I had the credit history here. Yeah. And also, you know what? I think actually what happened was, I also had our BC cross-border account, US account. I've been using that a lot over the past 2 years. So they had that on the American side where they could run that. And it's okay, so I had some credit with an American bank.
Yeah.
And so they basically used, I think they used my local credit here in Canada, and also the fact that I had some credit record in the United States to get a loan. So we pretty much had to come up with 30% roughly, right?
Yeah.
To sort of do that, because with you, we were hoping we would get a little, we would come in at 20 or so, and maybe get the rates a little lower. But that didn't happen. I mean, it's not a huge amount of money, which is the other issue, is like they want stuff that's above 100,000, right, so they can start making some good money, right? So our rate was pretty high, but it's a burr, so we were happy with it, and Neil was great. He made it work. We were happy, and of course the only thing we had to do was we had to drive across to Buffalo to have it signed in front of a notary. So she met us at a restaurant once.
Yeah, like at Niagara Falls, right?
Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
I used to do that all the time. I used to go down, and there was a McDonald's across from the Rainbow Bridge, like just down the road, and I'd go meet a notary at the McDonald's. I found a lot of them will now take the Canadian notary, and there's RON services now, the remote online notary, which
I think it had to do with our lender.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
all lender specific.
yeah, we didn't, I guess beggars can't be choosers, and we finally found a lender that could fund us. But like it was really contacts we got off your podcast.
Yeah.
Because I had tried, actually, like my agent, I had tried to see, because Soji is a money partner, and so so I have to make everything work, right?
Right.
And so I tried to get my cousin in the States to, use his credit. Like, he's like, no, I can't. My agent was going to do it, but her husband said no. So, so I have a great agent to recommend, but, she did a great job. And so finally, I'm like, Soji, we might have to do all cash. You might have to pony up more, because we end up getting the property for 60K. And instead of 80, we got it down to 60. So it was on your show. He's like, wait a minute, Neil Smith, I believe.
Yep.
He's really good. And so then I reached out to him, and then Soji, and we made it happen. So, and it was good.
How did you go from 80 to 60? How was that because of an appraisal? Like, how did you convince him to go down that much? Because I'm not going to do math in my head, but that's probably close to 20%. It's a good cut. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, so he was asking for 80. Then when we so there was a, I guess, offer pending. So when I got to look at the property, the agent that I used, she actually said, look, I already have a few showings. Maybe, you're in town last minute. Maybe you can just come to these showings, and then I'll show you some other properties after. So it was a travel nurse that had the property under contract. And she got nervous because there was some work to be done. Like the roof was a little bit slanty, and the basement, it was creepy, and like they weren't sure if it was like fully structurally sound.
Mm-hmm.
So we did get somebody in to look at that stuff. So essentially she walked away from the deal.
Yep.
And I half jokingly said to the agent when we were there, I'm like, oh, if she doesn't take it, just call me, which she did call me.
Yeah.
And so
I'll remember.
we went back. Yeah. We went back to the seller and we said, look, like there's some repairs here. And so really was for the roof. So he dropped it to, he gave us a credit. He dropped it to 59. We actually paid 59 for it. And then when we got it estimated by the lender, it estimated at 74.
Okay.
So we got money in the buy.
And then on top of that, you're going to have more money because you got that credit. And then because that 74 will be based on what it is right now. But
Yes.
Once you go and, take that credit, I assume you took the credit and did the roof and the other things that need to be done.
Yeah,
so
it's
it could
been
even
done.
appraise for more than that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You're adding value, you're doing the hard sell. So anyway, sorry, I cut you off there, but that was great.
Well, that's good. I'm taking notes. So
I think the other thing that came out from the final when we did the finance with Neil was I think, because like I said, we're basically renovating, right? We're going to renovate and rent for hire and refinance, right? I think the appraisal didn't come in at 100. Is it 120? 120?
So the ARV.
The ARV there, right? The ARV. Okay.
Yeah. So because we had basically, so we did this. There's a tenant in there. We bought it tenanted.
Okay.
So we bought this thing in August, just literally 2 months ago.
Yep.
And there's a 6-month lease still remaining on the current tenant. So they come out February, March. And so what we had also set aside some money to like our own money, like to do some renos. So with the credit and with the money that we'd set aside, we're looking at about 30K that we put into the 60K property. And so the ARV should be about 120 once we do everything that we need to do.
That's perfect. So you pushed it up quite a bit, which is really nice. I had something in my head now. It just slipped because I was busy listening to you. But no, that's good. Anyway, continue, and it'll pop back in my head.
Yeah, like I think it was also too, like, just some of the things that we discovered were like, oh, we learned it off the show, like even having to go across the border.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, this is it. We tried to push for the notary to meet us here, but right. But I'm like, well, remember, like this is how it works. So I do hard lining up our schedules because we're both work busy jobs, and we had to. And then the other issue that we found in closing is it seems like here in Canada, closing is more firm, but in the US, it's a moving target.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I don't know how people buy a house and then plan to like schedule a moving truck. I don't even know how that works. Like, yeah, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to close that day, and sometimes you find out that day of that the lender just hasn't sent their wire or whatever.
We literally had Glenn, we had a 10-day window it was any day. I was like, because Soji's job is less flexible than mine.
Yep.
And so I'm like, hey buddy, I can go any day. But he's like, it doesn't work that way for my job. So every day we had to call the agent and is it today? Is it today? And then finally they gave us the clear to close.
Yeah.
I think late evening. And then so he had to keep readjusting his schedule like based on maybes. So
that's tough.
Prepare people for that, because if you have to travel across the border on a dime, how do you do that?
Yeah,
really hard. It's really hard.
It's also what it is, Glenn, too, as well. It's also that psychological fear we have in Canada, knowing that this is how we've been, right? When you have a closing date, if you don't meet it, you're going to get slapped hard, right? It's going to cost you, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm getting anxious. I'm like, we have to close this thing. We got to close this thing. We got to close this thing. And then Neil's like saying, it's okay. We'll just move it a couple of days. It's fine. Really?
Yeah, it's a mind change. It's crazy. We have a property we were supposed to close on Monday, and we're recording this on a Thursday, and we're still not closed. But it's not our fault. We're ready to go. We have plans, right? Sometimes a title issue comes up. There's a lien, or no, they had a tax lien on the property they're trying to sort out. So it's not us, but yeah, it's a moving target. We were ready to fund on Monday, right? We were ready to rock it, and it just things change, right? I had a question. You guys were saying you're doing, you got it appraised with an ARV, and you got it, you put a loan on it. So did you do like a fix and flip loan, or you did like a long-term loan and you're planning to refinance out of the long-term loan?
Fix and flip.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense. So, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I'm understanding, because I'm like, you guys are gonna have a lot of fees when you go to break that long-term loan. A lot of people don't realize that the long
we got a 12-month
fees, and the fix and flips are all front end fees.
And even those rates too were a bit mind-boggling. I was like saying to Neil, and I also said to Olu that, man, it's pretty high. And Neil goes, well, you know what? It's normal for two reasons. It is a flip. It's a very short-term loan. It is a small amount as far as the lender is concerned.
Yep.
So they're trying to. I think it was about 12 or 13% or something like that. Right?
Yeah, it was about 13%.
13%.
Right.
Yeah. Which a lot of people they're gonna their jaw's gonna drop. But this is not a long-term loan. This is to do the renovation, and then you're gonna refi into something else. It's like a lot of people even in Canada would use, or even in the US would use like a private loan, like from another investor, and pay them 12 or 13%. And it's the way the lenders like to word it is it's like 1% per month, right? Doing it right, you're not staying in this loan for that long, right? You're gonna go in, and then you're gonna well, right now you guys are probably waiting. Hopefully the first quarter there's a 0.5 point drop or something, right? And maybe get the refi going.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that by the time it's all done, that this American guy we have here, that will be able to take advantage of that.
Well, yeah. So basically, my broker said in 6 months. So I have my credit card and everything. It says just keep using your credit card. In about 6 months, you should have a score that we could use.
Have you been checking it, or do you use I don't know, there's millions of apps to see what it's at, or how do you know?
It's been about 3 months now, so I was kind of not going to check until the 4-month mark. But is there any apps that you suggest would be good?
Well, honestly, because right now, at least until the end of the month, I'm still using foreign nationals. So honestly, to pull a foreign national credit score, I found it really hard. Credit Karma couldn't do it. A lot of those, if I went to Equifax or TransUnion or they weren't able to pull it, right? It was actually mail-aways and more difficult to do it. So I found it the easiest way to do it is just to do a loan and ask the lender what they pulled, because they'll pull it.
Okay. Actually,
but you as a social security number, there's tons of apps that can pull that up.
Okay.
Depending on where you bank, they might even be able to show it. Like some of my
I just thought about that. I have a banker.
Oh, Amex. If you have an Amex, you can click on the thing and it'll tell you what your credit is.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
I have an Amex too. I haven't checked mine.
It's tricky with your foreign national. Sometimes it'll work and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But with a social security number, it'll work.
When I walked into the bank and yeah, it was a little bit of a scary experience to walking into an American bank, because it's just completely different.
It's different feel.
Different feel. It was like there was no one there. And they had these couches but yeah, so the guy was very friendly though, because I opened my account outside of Philly, and my daughter goes to school at Villanova, which is right outside of Philly, and she's a basketball player. And so when he found out that she's one of the college players, and he's like, hey, whatever you need, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like he actually, because we had an issue getting me a bank account because I didn't have an American address. And so he sort of allowed me to use my cousin's address. And to get my credit card was also an issue because I didn't have an American address. And they had to, move heaven and earth. But yeah, so this guy is a good guy.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you're working on fixing the credit, and then the hope that will help the refi whenever that gets all. And honestly, I want to stay in touch with you because I'm in the middle of my visa right now, and I'm going to get my social security number. I'm expecting in the next month. So
wow, congratulations!
Maybe we'll compare notes or what our plans are about building.
Yeah, that's been a journey for you. I know you've been talking about that for a while.
Oh yeah, I started it 4 years ago, and then I stopped. Anyway, that's a whole other story we're going to go down. But maybe I think some people you were talking about doing your first property in the United States, and you also talking about doing a fix and flip loan, which the other part of the fix and flip loan that we didn't talk about is the contracting and actually doing this renovation. How is that went for you guys?
How is that going to go?
Or how's it going to go? Sorry.
Yeah, because so the roof is being done, but the internal, because there's a tenant in there. So still a 6-month lease left. We do have some good contacts and contractors and everything. So it's just a matter of when they leave, then we'll see how that goes for us. But the good thing right now is everything is paying for itself, even with the loan, with the 13% loan that we got.
That's great.
Because the total value was only $40K that we borrowed. And so and the tenant is paying about $825. So it's more than the 1% rule. It's probably like 13, 14, 15%. So it's covering all our costs right now.
Well, that takes the pressure off a lot too, right? Yeah, you still have probably a 12 or 13 month note, but you can always extend, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can always extend, and I usually don't like to do that, but I've done it once, right? I've had to do the extension just because of extenuating circumstances. But it's interesting, and it's nice that you have the tenant there, because that's one of the things that's the hardest things when you're doing a construction is a lot, and you're doing a fix and flip loan. A lot of times you're paying a 12 or 13% note, and you have no income coming in. So you're like,
Right.
where is this coming from? You're like, keep sending money from Canada or wherever, and it's just it makes things a lot more stressful and difficult, because where is that money coming from? It's probably lines of credit, at least a lot of cases, lines of credit, or it's coming from off of your personal income, or sometimes they have people have savings, wherever. It all changes, right? So I'm going on a rant, but back to the contracting. So what is the plan for that? Like, you're waiting for them to leave. When does that happen? And then have you figured found the contractor? Have you got that all set up? And are they just waiting for you to say go?
Yeah, I have two contractors. My real estate agent, she's got a team, and she's like, yeah, we can help you. But also my property manager, he's also has a team, and he's also a real estate like brokerage.
Mhm.
I didn't know that, but it seems like a lot of the sort of medium, not even massive. He only has about 1,000 properties, maybe
Yeah.
only. But he started a real estate company, and he's got a team, and so it's actually interesting, because when I had to get some of my estimates, he was like, am I doing the estimates or your people? Because I was using the agents contractors.
Right.
So I was kind of pitting both of them against each other. Okay, let me get the quotes from, so I was a bit too hands-on. I think I was frustrating him, because some of the contractors that were actually the same, the more reputable ones were the same that the agents had and that he had.
Depending who's going through, who's managing.
Yeah. So, but we definitely have some good sort of contacts, and like we're just doing simple sort of like repairs, like changing the carpets to more like fake wood, like laminate, and maybe doing a tub surround, and maybe putting new facing onto the cupboards in the kitchen. Not going to do a totally new kitchen, so it's quite superficial. It's not going to be massive.
Which is nice, and it's you shouldn't take as long either.
Yeah,
Theoretically.
exactly.
When you're getting multiple quotes, and they knew about it, were they charging you for the quotes, or was it they're okay to go bid that out for you for free?
No, I think it was just the one time that they found out. No, but no, I wasn't charged for it. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So sometimes, especially if they know you're having multiple quotes, they'll be like, "Oh, I want to get paid for my time, because there's not even a guarantee I'm going to get this
Yes.
job
Yeah.
at the end of it, right?" So we're going to do this tenant turnover, or tenant leave, fix this up. Is there room for the rents to move up as well during that period?
For the rent to move up, like in
Yeah, is
terms
there
of
like
the,
based on what market rent is, and like
Oh,
where
yeah.
the tenants below, and that's what your plan was to move it up?
we're looking at how much were we looking at? 800 to, was it 1,000 or 1,200 a month?
Yeah, it's between that. We're looking at about 1,100 for the max.
Yeah.
And maybe 1,050. So anywhere between 1,000 and 1,100.
Yep.
Is the comps in the area.
That'll be nice too, right? You move to a different loan program, right? And then hopefully your payments come down, but your leverage are going to go up. So maybe it'll stay fairly similar. I'm not sure, doing the math.
Yeah.
And then you get some higher rent, and make it go through. That's cool. I'm just curious. You guys, I guess it wouldn't work for the appraisal, but what I'm was curious about is, did you ever propose to the current tenant to just bump the rent to like 1,100 and see if they take it, rather than doing all the renovations?
That's a thought. I
Mm.
don't think we did.
Because they can always say no. But the thing is, it might affect your refi then, right? Like you wouldn't be able to like necessarily appraise for the same amount if you haven't done those same things. But you did the roof,
Right.
some of the things. I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, it depends on the property, the financial, if they need the money back, and what your kind of goals are. It's just something that just popped in my head. I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, I think we did think that if we did the reno, we could offer the tenant back, but because we wanted the ARV to go up so that we could get a good refi rate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
But I do wonder if, how many scenarios is this even practical to even think that maybe even with the tenant there and the rent going up, if they will still stay within the building whilst we reno?
So it's going to come down to a lot of different factors, because it's, how much how many other buildings are available for rent in that area? What do they rent for? If they have to move into a more expensive one anyway, right? Maybe you could even just say, hey, we're going to reface this on a weekend when you're gone. Just let us know, right? And we'll slowly do some of the stuff while you're in here. If you agree to the higher price, we're going to, add some value to you. But do they have other options? And, because it has to be possibly, if their kids, like, for instance, like a basketball player, they might want to stay with the same school. They don't want to switch schools. So they have to have what is like the vacancy rate in that neighborhood or for that school zone, right? So you just have to go look up what the school zone is, where the lines are to draw for that. And, maybe there's an incentive to stay there, right? And like that's the same thing you have in even Canada. Sometimes people, if you even give them, say, cash for keys to leave, they could have just, paid a little bit more and stayed in the same property and had to uproot their school, their kids, and everything else, right? And especially when you're talking, like, I can't remember the number. I think you said $850 a month or whatever, 850 to 1050, or even do it as a graduated, right? So 850, and we'll move it to 1,000. We're going to work on renovations. When the renovations are done, we're going to move it to 1,100. And if and they have tons of lead up time, so they're like, okay, if this doesn't work out in a year, I'll find somewhere else to live, right?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. The reason that's not a bad idea is I know right now the there's a lot of like inventory in the market, in the rental market right now. Just talking to the property managers in Indy. So I mean, going into Thanksgiving and Christmas, February, but even prior, even right now, like it's just not a great time because people are not moving, stuff is expensive. And so he said the rental, I guess, time period to rent a place is now longer in Indy right now, just because of the market. So if we can hold on to a tenant, why not?
Yeah. No, it's exactly what you said. I don't need to re-say it, but yeah, no, it's you don't need the longer periods. So what's the plan going forward? Like after you're getting, once we've kind of talked about this project, when you get this one done, or do you start another one, or how does this look going forward for the future of your guys' company?
Yeah, let's Soji.
Here are my thoughts. Here are my thoughts.
Yeah,
which you can add to, of course, which we've kind of talked about. So obviously, with the BRRRR, you want to pull out your initial investment and hopefully pull out some equity, as long as you pay the mortgage and you have it rented, right? You want to do that. I want to take that money, we want to funnel it into another project, and kind of do the same thing. That's just one aspect. The other aspect is obviously I'm looking at multiplex as well. Applications of whatever's out there that kind of makes sense, and maybe even duplexes or fourplexes, or it all depends really. And I like to run a lot of these ideas by Olu as well, because I see him as part of what I need to get done. Get it done, So that's kind of where those are my thoughts, right, on that, right? And
I've had some duplexes in Indianapolis myself, and they lease up. Like, people are, they're sought after, right?
No, I think we're on the same page. I think that Soji and I both have separate things going on as well. So, but I think even in the US, we're looking at we're both in Indy, but we're also maybe separately looking at a couple of different places. Like I'm looking at San Antonio. I know he's looking at Ohio right now. I'm kind of interested in Ohio, but I really want to, be entrenched in Indy first. So, but definitely duplexes would be the next step. Maybe a triplex, maybe a fourplex. Yeah.
I mean, I did get a lead a few months ago from a friend of mine that lives in Baltimore. Talks about somebody he knows that buys rundown buildings, duplexes and stuff in different neighborhoods, and tries and renovates them himself, because that's what he does. And he's looking for investment, and the investments are not that much, 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 to get the work done, and then they either flip it or they hold. They might, maybe if it's a fourplex, they might flip 2 and hold 2 or something, or hold 1.
Yes,
kind of talked about that, but I haven't spoken with him in a while to see how practical that is. But I also want to make sure things are set up right. You don't want to throw money at your cousin because they can build a shed or something. Make sure everything's set up right.
Oh yeah. And you're constantly going to keep fixing it. I just am redoing my structure right now. Your company grows, you have different businesses that kind of start joining into your company, and you have to make stuff work so that you're happy, or that IRS and Canada Revenue are happy with you. Or you're happy with what they're charging you. Maybe it's the other way around. Guys, if people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to track you guys down?
For me, it's email. It's OLUJEGEDE2@gmail.com.
Awesome.
And for me, it is Soji, Soji.Bewaji, BEWAJI @protonmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for coming on the show. I think that this will be one that a lot of people will be interested in. People are always interested in indie. People are always interested in the stories and how everything goes. So this is,
if they have any questions about indie, let us know. I mean, we're still learning, so
what, and even just real quick, and even just the first property, the first move is always a big deal. It's just
so much harder the first one.
Yeah, with your head, can I do it? Should I do it? I'm putting money here. Am I going to lose it?
Yeah,
making that first.
It's just taking
step.
Action.
And so I knew that when Olu, when he contacted me on this, I just said to my wife, you know what, we just got to do it. I mean, it's great because it's not a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And so you ask yourself one question: if you lose it all, is it going to bother you that much, right? Are you going to, is this your life savings? And we figured, okay, you know what, we'll put it at risk. It's a great way to start, get the feel, see what everybody does, see how much it costs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm glad that we did. So now it sets up for something even bigger, better, and larger, So we're really happy about that.
And I just want to say, your shows really helped us out in so many ways. And I also got connected to Trust Your Talent. I heard of Brooke Shang on your show, and
Tim as well.
And Tim, and so I got connected to their program, and so I'm in their community. And so your show, so I'm kind of in several places, but your show has been like the kind of folk hub and the connecting point for all those things. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Really appreciate
it. And I love the attitude. That's the way to do it, right? You go there, you get a nice, good, I think that's a great property. Like at least it sounds like it, but get a good one. And then people try to go for the home runs right off the start, like the million perfect, I'm going to put money in, I'm going to triple it on the first go. Right. And sometimes you can do that, but honestly, most people that I find that's their goal, they just sit there on the sidelines for so long. And it's better to get in, get your money moving, make some money, get out, learn some stuff, keep growing, keep pushing, and it just keeps getting easier each project. Keep finding better deals. Your network expands. The contractors are happy to work with you. Just everything continues to get easier. It's the first ones that are hardest out of the ones anyway. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
That was a nice video. Bye.